Hello everyone, this is Gumjabar, and I have a PvT for you today, which I haven't done in a while, and very seldom do these recently, but the matchup kind of is flipping around. It's weird. I don't know entirely what happened, but a lot of Terrans are on the forums complaining now that Protoss is hard to beat, and the matchup is fun again. I don't know what to say, but you know what? I'm going with it. I'm happy about it. PvT. Let's go through it. So my opponent is better than HD. I'd like to imagine this is Husky's Smurf, but who knows. And of course at the left is me, Gumjabar. Got the production tab up for you guys. I did a 9 pylon scout. On this map I will often do a gateway scout, but just to be on the really safe side, sometimes you can't get into their base if you scout them last, and you know, they do a 14 depot wall in. So it's okay to scout on 9. Doesn't hurt your economy that much, and it's really important to see what Terran is doing. I do manage to delay his barracks by a tiny amount, not very much. I see no gas this early, but this is about when you would make it. So I definitely have to keep checking. PvT build, if you're a little bit newer, basically you should never, I think, do an expansion that's later than a 1 gate expansion. 30 supply should be the latest you ever expand in PvT, because any later than that and you just lose to a 1-1-1 all-in, which is a Marine tank Banshee all-in, you need that early expansion to kick in so you have an extra income to hold that off. The only thing you can do is just 1 gate expand or Nexus first every single game. And I really believe this very strongly. Obviously, if you know that they're going bio, you can do a different build, like 3 gate expand, and it can be pretty good. But we're just not going to do that. So I confirm he has no gas. He's doing a wall-in at the ramp, which even further confirms he's not really going to have an add-on on this barracks anytime soon. So it's very safe to guess he's going to do a 1 racks expand in this spot. It's possible that he'll do an SCV rush with Marines really early at like 5 minutes, but you know, you should keep on the lookout for stuff like that, but you can try and hold that off just by pulling probes. So I'm doing a different build here. This is a new build for my channel, and you know, you might learn a thing or two. This is, I want to say, KCDC's build, which is a Zealot Stalker Sentry 1 gate expand. We never chrono boost warp gate in this build. We stick on 1 gas. We make a Zealot, we chrono boost out a Stalker to prevent scouting. This particular expand is really nice because it doesn't cut probes nearly as much as any of the others. It's a really, really thin build. It's really very thin defense, really tightly executed. It doesn't really do more than it has to. It's pretty greedy economically, I have to say, and I like that. That's great. So here we do see our command center from Terran throwing down a whole bunch of barracks and gas. Very standard. So pretty much after the Zealot Stalker, I make my Nexus, I make a Sentry, I make a Gateway, and I go back to making probes. Really fast probe cut here. And after the Sentry, I make another Zealot. I actually chrono boost that. I should have chrono boosted the Sentry as well. So what's going to happen is we're going to have 2 Zealots, a Sentry, and a Stalker by the time Warp Gate is about to finish. And I'm just scouting out here, making sure he is an expand or whatever he's doing. And then we can just throw down our Robo after only 2 gates. This is kind of the greedy version. You can throw down a 3rd gate before your Robo, but we're not cutting probes while we're doing any of this. So I try and get up here and check out what he's doing. I see the tech lab on the barracks, so I know that he's not doing any kind of tech, any sort of Banshee type thing. I mean, it's possible he is, but it's pretty unlikely. So I just add my third gate now. Added my extra gas. Nexus at my natural is done. We're going to warp in a Zealot and a Stalker. And we have 3 Zealots, 2 Stalkers, and a Sentry with enough energy for Guardian Shield. So he's actually going to do a bit of aggression here. Not too big of a deal. And since I see this coming, I'm just going to chrono boost out more units. And this brings me to this concept for PvT that really sounds like you're playing Zerg and not Protoss, but it's really important. Basically, it means that we're going to have this concept of powering, and we're going to have this concept of not powering, producing units. Much like Zerg wants to drone, and then they see an attack, suddenly they burst out 1 billion units. As Protoss, what we can do is we have Chrono Boost, and we have Warp Gate. And this allows us to actually just cut unit production in favor of getting more gateways, more upgrades, more infrastructure, more gas, all sorts of things like that, chrono boosting probes. And then as soon as we see an attack coming, we have a bunch of extra gates, we can chrono boost them a couple times, we suddenly have a big army. So this is the concept we're going to apply here, and this requires a ton of scouting. Scouting is super important for this strategy to work. So essentially, as soon as I know that there's no real attack coming, I can chrono boost upgrades, probes, observers freely. I can make extra gateways. I just don't have to make units. I really haven't been making units right here. This is what we had 2 warp-ins ago. And I'm going to go double forge. Typically, you actually throw down these 2 gases before the double forge. As long as they're around the same time, it's not a big deal. With my observer, I see a fairly small army, although I really am missing some of it. But I see a pretty small army. I see is getting his expansion up. I don't have to worry too much. And if we look at the production tab here, no units. No units. So here's the real key. We're constantly making probes, and we're actually going to stop at about 50. This is a little unusual. We're going to stop making probes at 50 until we're on 3 base. We get our upgrades going on our forges. To start 1-1 immediately, you want to always be chrono boosting those. All my gas is used up on upgrades. The only units I'm actually producing here are immortals. And this is important. You make 2 immortals after your observer. You can make 2 observers and then 2 immortals, whichever you feel comfortable with. You can go 1 observer and then 2 immortals, whatever. And the immortals are key to stopping these early pushes. Zealots, immortals, sentries, and some stalkers will hold off bio very surprisingly well, especially with the 1-1 upgrades. So again, we're looking at this production tab. He killed my observer, so I'm going to replace it. But I've got my 2 immortals. I haven't been warping in at all. Just upgrades, lots of probes. I'm up to 53 now. Chrono boosting these upgrades. Once I've got 1-1 started and they're maybe a third or halfway done, I can start my Twilight Council. I want the Twilight Council done in time to start 2-2, which does require the Twilight Council to begin making. I also want to start Blink real fast, but we'll get to that. So now, I notice some aggression. I'm going to, boom, warp in some units. I see a scan. Important to warp in units. I'm adding my gateways now. You want to add 3 gates after you start your Twilight. So he's actually snuck around here and done a pretty sneaky little attack here. If I'd seen this coming better, I would have had a lot more units. So this is like a really thin defense here. But I got him to overstim, actually. He's lost his first stim, and he'll have to stim again to engage. This is pretty good. Guardian Shield. You always want a Guardian Shield when you can against Terran. It's really important because Marines just like tickle you when you have Guardian Shield. It's ridiculous. 1-1 just finished. I'm starting Blink. I'm not making any units right now. And he can be a little aggressive, but the longer he fights, the less health he has because of stim. These immortals doing so much damage. It's kind of absurd. And now, notice, I've weathered his attack. It's weak. He's retreating. Look at the production tab. No units. Upgrades. Probes. We go up here. We've got our gateways finished. No units at the production tab. What you should do is, this should be your thought process. Always have double forges going. Never have them not upgrading, and you want to have them upgrading early on. Just have them going all game long. Speed up your upgrades. That's your key thing. What you want to do is look at the Terran army, be able to see the Terran army at all times. If you don't know what the Terran army is like, get an observer out there, sack a probe, do whatever you have to do, and say, can I beat this in a straight up fight? If the answer is no, you might want to warp in units, but primarily just, keep powering until he's going to attack. Add those gateways. I'm replacing my immortal that got lost. I'm starting my robotics bay, and I'm going to take a third base. This is a bit late for a third base, but he did some big aggression. He was actually on 5 barracks, which is very aggressive. And he took his third, then added on those starports. So I've got my observer out here. I want to always be able to check his army, check his upgrades. Now that blink is done, we're going to immediately start charge. Keep going with the 2-2. Our third base is starting up, so we're going to start Colossus production. You don't need to start Colossus before your third. You can just have the Robo Bay out there. And as soon as Terran sees this, he's going to think, crap, I cannot engage until I've got Vikings. Or else he's going to think, well, I've got a really slim timing to engage before he gets more than one Colossus. So it's all good. Why do we get blink before charge with this build? The reason is drops. We don't need charge early on because we can deal with it with force fields. What we want are upgrades. The upgrades just help our army survive against anything. Charge we only need for late game, or for mid to late game. Force fields will help us deal with pretty much anything and prevent Terran from escaping it with small army sizes. And Terran's are actually going to be really aggressively expansion. That does not make grammatical sense. He's going to aggressively expand. How about that? So that's a good thing. So we're getting our Colossus out. Got our third base up and running. At this point, remember how I said we're cutting probes at 50 until we have our third base up? The reason for that is we actually saturate at 50 pretty quickly off 2 base. And then we're going to sort of sit and upgrade for a while until we hit 3 base. Here's a little drop coming in. We'll check out what happens here. And once we hit 3 bases, we have a ton of chrono boost from our 3 nexuses, and we can actually just sort of power probes and get up to the 65 or 70 that we need very, very quickly. So Blink Stalkers allow us to kill medevacs, which means that his units are sacrificed for nothing. They cannot escape. This is what we want to do. Another important thing is, let's say that instead of the 5 barracks, he went for a more standard 3 racks into Starport. Our blink is going to coincide with the first time he can start dropping us, so that's very important to be able to account for. In this particular game, his drop tech was very late. Another thing to note, watchtowers. Have them. Why? Because we want to see when Terran's attacking us. If we've got both watchtowers and we know Terran's not attacking, all we have to worry about are drops, and we can position our army in such a way that is mitigated. If we have no watchtower, we have no vision, Terran can move anywhere on the map and just come out of nowhere, and we'll be very surprised. Alright, so, at this point, we're on 3 base. We pretty much immediately add this Templar Archives and a bunch of gates. And we're only making Archons with it. And he does a drop up here, but he actually sort of does not see it, strangely enough. So I'm just going to go ahead and kill that for free. Very nice of him, very generous. So yeah, we're still upgrading. Based on your gas requirements, you can start 3-3 one at a time. You don't need to do them at once. It is a lot of gas, but a lot of people do 3-3 one at the same time, and it's okay too. We're going to make 3 Colossus, and that's it. Don't need more than 3. Why? 3 Colossus is tough for Terran to deal with by getting the exact Viking count. Terrans tend to either overmake or undermake Vikings to deal with 3 Colossus. Here come some of those Vikings now. Let's see them transform over here. Just a side note, I love the way Vikings look when they're landed. They look like bottlenecks. It's so cool. So, get a pylon. That's a little obnoxious. What am I talking about? Colossus. We don't need more than 3. If he overmakes Vikings, we don't want to have like 4 or 5 that get instantly one-shotted by all those Vikings, because then we've committed a lot of resources into Colossus production. We want our ground army to be a lot more powerful. Note, with this watchtower, I see this little sneaky army movement up here. I know he's going to go ahead and try and snipe a base while my army is occupied. He should have been doing this while I was dealing with that drop over there, but in any event, he'll actually be able to do some damage to my 4th. His 4th has been up for quite a while, in fact, and he's starting his 5th. He's being really aggressive with the expansions. And I thought I could kill him first, but the Marauder stim is just too much DPS, so I did lose this base. Right. So what we want to do once we hit 3 base is get up to 3 Colossus. We have our Templar Archives. We don't actually get Storm. He's sacrificing SCVs to make his army size bigger. What we want is Archons. Why? Archons are good against bio. They have splash. They don't get instantly knocked out by a single EMP or snipe. And, most importantly, we're going for a heavy upgrade play, and Archons are affected by upgrades quite well. Look at this. Versus biological, they do 43 damage a shot in splash. That's a lot. How much do Immortals do? They do 60 versus armored, 1 shot. And these are specialty versus armored. Archons are specialty versus bio. Very, very powerful. So, we're going to have a really tanky army with a lot of charge zealots. We're going to have a difficult to deal with number of Colossus that he will either not have enough Vikings for, or he'll have too many Vikings and then his actual ground army will be weaker. We've got Blink Stalkers, but not a ton of them. You only want about, I would say, between 10 and 12 in any game, pretty much. Just enough to one-shot Vikings. You want at least 2 Immortals, but after your Colossus are at 3, you can actually make more Immortals. And if he's like maxed on Marines, the Colossus will clean those up pretty quickly before they get taken out. And we've got Guardian Shield, of course. So, I got some cannons up here just to prevent any tomfoolery. And once I max out, that's about the time that I'm hitting 3-3, which is just about now. If you look at Terran's upgrades, he's only at 2-2. And he actually has double eBay, so he's been pretty good on his upgrades. But Chrono Boost means we will always be ahead. And you want to take advantage of that with a specific timing. When you get maxed, that's when you hit 3-3. That's when you should become really aggressive. So I'm just going to kill bases. I know that I can beat his army. 3-3 charged zealots, in fact they're going to be 3-3-1 in a second, is really strong. And of course once I'm maxed and I have floating resources, I can go ahead and get Storm. Can't hurt to have a couple Templar with Storm, but Archons are favored earlier on. Now I'm moving up here, but he's going to catch me with a really nice engagement actually. This is what Terran needs to do. They have to rely on very good engagements. And yeah, he hits me with a really, really bad engagement spot right here. My computer is just dying right now. I don't know what the heck is happening, guys, but whatever. So it's very important in these situations to take advantage of what Protoss has as an advantage against Terran, which is very, very fast reinforcements. So we've got our Stalkers doing 17 versus Armored, 13 versus Light, and we're just going to rip through everything. This Immortal is there for heavy Marauder counts. We've got lots of Zealots, and it's always good to pick off Medivacs. You should prioritize Medivacs, because a Terran Bio army without Medivacs cannot heal, and stimming becomes very costly. Always good to kill that. Oh, I missed one. And now we can see he's got the Viking count to destroy our Colossus. He was too low last time. But now all these Vikings are worthless. His units come out one at a time very slowly, and we can just dominate his army. Of course, I'm remaking my Colossus. I can start a second Robo so I can remake a bunch of Colossus much faster if I need to. I always advocate this. Late game, like we are now, you can add a second Robo and just start. Anytime you kill off a bunch of Vikings, just pump out two Colossus at a time. Very, very strong play. We're going to have a bunch of Archons and Zealots. Archon Zealot is the core meat of our army. The only way Terran can challenge Archon Zealot is with a ton of Marines and some Ghosts. And this late in the game, a lot of Marines would be pretty bad because, check it out, we've got Colossus. And we've got Storm now, researched. So, you know, in the early to mid game, we're sort of okay against any sort of bio. We're pretty good against Mass Marine, pretty good against Marauders. We're just going with a balanced army with upgrades. Mid game, we want to add on those Colossus and some Archons. And late game we can add on double Robo Colossus and Psystorm. And I'm getting shields level 2. So my army is 3-1-3. He's 3-3, but he can't really go any more than that. And I just can get really aggressive at this point because I've just got a huge advantage. It's tough for Terran to deal with Colossus, Zealots, and Archons. Because once his Marine count is low enough, the Zealot Archon will just tear through everything else. We can actually just sacrifice, we can trade, it sounds weird, we can trade Colossus for Marines, and then we just win. So this game is almost over. I mean, we're getting there. But I'll just go back and re-emphasize the key points of constant scouting of Terran's army. We want to be able to know when we can power and when we have to make units. So this is what we have to know. And here come a huge amount of Warpins. And my computer just dying right now. Here comes the engagement. Come on, computer, you can do it. So, we have our observers, got our watchtowers. As long as we know Terran's not attacking us, we can just get infrastructure and upgrades and probes. Don't warp in units, you don't need to. But of course, once we know Terran's going to get aggressive or is being aggressive, we have to warp in those units, chrono boost or gateways. And yeah, there's not much he can do. He just GG's because look at this army. It's pretty great. So I think that's going to be it. Yeah, blink before charge. Add the Robo Bay and then take a third, and then you can start Colossus production. Upgrades going all game long. That's super important. We want to leverage our advantage with Chrono Boost as the Protoss race has several advantages. Chrono Boost, Warp Gates, Force Fields, I would say. So we want to take advantage of that. Warp Gate is an advantage late game when we can warp in a bunch of things at once, and it's an advantage early game when we can power, but then we can use Warp Gate to instantly have an army very quickly. What else is there to say? Chrono Boost. Chrono Boost is a great advantage because it allows us to power. We don't see any aggression coming. We can spend our Chrono Boost on probes, on upgrades, on special units like Immortals, even though we don't even need to do that. And it'll just give us that much more leverage later in the game. So, you know, this is pretty much the dominant style right now, in my opinion. This is what Terrans are having trouble with and complaining about, this double forge mass upgrade powering style. You should try and do this. Yeah, that's all I've got to say. Hope you enjoyed this video and learned something, and see you next time.